Welcome to the first episode of the Big Kahuna Podcast. With so many sources of information to choose from, I consider it a real privilege that you took time to listen to this one. What can you expect from the Big Kahuna? Well, two things for sure. I will give you expressions of my personal interests, which include subjects like business, technology, marketing, and innovation, as well as a healthy smattering of politics, history, geography, religion, and culture. And not just as isolated silos, but how the intersections between them have resulted in the world we currently experience and the world we're likely to experience in the near future. But at the end of the day, my biggest interest is really about people and how they get along at home, at school, at work, at their place of worship, in society, and in the world. And because my vocation for the past 30 plus years has been technology and communication, I'm sure we'll have a heavy dose of how to apply these principles to grow your business. And to that end, the first dozen or so episodes will take a look at strategic thinking related to marketing your organization, products, and services. The second thing you can expect is answers to your questions. I recognize that as much as this podcast endeavor is about me and my reasons for doing it, it is really about you and your reasons for consuming it. And I promise I won't forget that. So you have the opportunity to shape this conversation. To make our time truly relevant, I encourage you to take time and ask your questions, which can be about anything you're interested in. I'm confident we'll have the opportunity to develop a relationship on different levels. For some, I might become a mentor or guide. For others, I may be someone who is an encourager or cheerleader. And for others, I may be someone you frequently disagree with, and I become your sparring partner. And it's all good. So, send your questions or comments to questions@thebigkahuna.ca. Again, questions or comments can go to questions@thebigkahuna.ca. Now listen, more than everything I've said so far, it's my hope we can become friends and find that our lives are mutually enriched from our time together. So, ask your questions and provide your feedback, and together I'm sure we can create something pretty great. Now let's take a look at this clip.
Stop the auto theft that has run rampant under this Prime Minister. He's now throwing a cape over his back, claiming that he's the hero on auto theft, but it's actually tripled in Toronto, and it's up by 100% in Montreal after he brought in catch and release and house arrest for car thieves, and after his incompetence allowed our ports to spin out of control and our cars to be exported to overseas crime and terror networks. Why doesn't he reverse his policies instead of another meeting?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Speaker, this is a serious situation. Canadians are concerned about this, and the Conservative leader just chooses to whip out his empty slogans and continue to blame everyone while we're getting to work. We're pulling together stakeholders and leaders from across the government to look at what more we can do. We've seen successes. CBSA agents have intercepted over 1,600 stolen cars last year in 2023, but there's more to do. We're going to continue to make the steady work and investments necessary to keep Canadians safe and to keep
crime is way up. Violent crime is up 40% under this Prime Minister. And today he had his ministers hold a big press conference as their solution. And in it, they put out a press release that said, and I quote, "In 2022, approximately 9,600 vehicles were stolen in the Toronto area alone, representing a 300% increase since 2015, end quote. What happened in 2015?
What happened?
I know, he happened, Mr. Speaker. How can we make him unhappen and stop the crime?
In 2015, Stephen Harper presented a budget that had slashed funds for policing, slashed funds for CBSA officers, slashed funding for Veterans Affairs Services, and we were there to clean up the mess, to cut taxes for the wealthiest 1%, lower them for the middle class, to support families, to start moving forward on gun control in real ways while the Conservatives cozy up to the American gun lobbies. We've continued to step up in keeping Canadians safe. Let them bring assault weapons back to our streets. We'll keep Canadians safe.
Wow, is he ever losing control of himself? Oh my goodness. Screaming and hollering like that, Mr.
How can people have such drastically different opinions? We see it all the time, and there is no aspect of our human experience that is immune. And are these differences a good thing or not so good? When I look at a clip like the one we just watched, of course, I form my own opinion on the issue and rightly or wrongly will tend to express it, most often to my wife. But often I want to think a little bit beyond the issue and think about what it is that has contributed to such different thinking about the same thing. What are the contributors to that perspective? When I think about my own life, I recognize there are many things that have shaped my view of the world. So, what are the things that have shaped the way you think about things? What has caused you to look at the world the way you do? I was thinking about this today, and here are some of the factors I came up with. The first and foremost for most of us is the family setting that we grew up in and the influence of our parents, grandparents, and siblings. It could be the geographic location, the historical background, and political or economic circumstances of where we lived. What about the culture that we've been a part of? Was it urban or rural? What about ethnicity or age groups? Who do we spend our time around? What activities do we participate in? Were you an athlete or a bookworm? Did you do crafts, go dancing, protest, cook, fly a plane, travel, and see the world? What about your exposure to other cultures? How about your education? The type of schools you attended, the type of programs you took? How did you pay for that education? The influence of your classmates and friends, the influence of professors, authors, historical figures. Did you pass or fail, change course, or go for advanced degrees? For a large part of our population, education came from the school of hard knocks, where the school colors are black and blue. How has your educational journey affected you, the people you met, job opportunities that it opened up or closed? And in what ways has it benefited you or even hurt you? What are some of the other experiences that have affected the way you view the world? What about the jobs you had or lost? What about your friendships? And what has those friendships contributed to your life? What about your accomplishments or your failures? What's possible? What's not? What about your acts of service or charity? What has been the impact of religion in your life or the lack thereof? What about your origins? Where were you born? Was it here or did you immigrate? All of these factors, and of course many more, make us who we are as individuals and bring us together as groups. They help us affirm or oppose other people's ideas. They shape our beliefs and our moral code. They make us predictable and unpredictable. And when we have the willpower, they will inevitably drive our decisions and actions. Now, speaking from the perspective of a marketer, the more I understand this and allow this understanding to shape my message and the channels I choose to communicate through, the more likely I am to connect with my target audience and realize positive business outcomes. speaking as a father or husband or just a member of society. The more I understand this about myself and others, the more likely I am to have a successful family and experience meaningful relationships. Understanding worldview allows us to find solidarity and comfort in our similarities and depth and challenge in our differences. One of my earliest experiences that impacted me and how I view business, believe it or not, was when I was 5 years old. In those days, when you got a box of cereal, often there was a prize of some sort in that box. And one day I was sitting at the table pouring my cereal, and out came the prize. And in this case, it was one of those little booklets that as you flipped it, the scene animated before you. It was like flipping a book and watching a movie. It was very cool. And as I was sitting there looking at this, I was thinking, well, this booklet, as it is, has a certain value. But what if I was to separate the pages, take them apart? Would each page be worth something? And collectively, would they be worth more than the whole? So what I did was I got a bag. I ripped up these papers, put them in the bag, got permission from my mother to go out and try to sell them. She indicated that I was allowed to go 3 or 4 cottages up one way and 3 or 4 cottages down the other way. That was my territory. And this was my product. And now it was up to me to get out there and pitch it. So I went from cottage to cottage, thinking that my target audience was a mother who saw this little kid at the door, took pity on them, and gave them some money for the little pictures. Well, I found out a couple things. First of all, the territory that I was assigned wasn't large enough. No one within that territory took interest. And quite frankly, as much as I thought those mothers might take pity on me, it didn't really happen. So I arbitrarily made the decision that I needed to expand my market, expand the territory, and be open to other demographics of potential customers. Now, obviously, those concepts and words were not going through my head, but the actions certainly were. So I pursued my course of action. I knocked on doors, got farther and farther away from my cottage. But finally, quite a distance away, I was able to come to a cottage that was occupied by a number of young adults or late teens, certainly the ability to drive. They were at that age. And when they looked at me, they got a chuckle out of it. And they said, well, we'll just take the whole thing and here's a dime. Well, a dime doesn't sound like much, but in those years, 55 years ago, a dime could buy an awful lot of candy. And what I had realized is although my parents gave me an allowance each week that we were at the cottage, my ambitions for sweets outpaced the allowance that I was given. So adding an extra dime to the mix was pretty exciting, especially because you could buy 2 for a penny, 3 for a penny, 4 for a penny, even 5 candies for a penny. Well, the guys were excited to help me out. They ushered me out to their car, an old station wagon, and we all drove down the road to the corner store. I went in, I spent that dime, got a whole bag full of candy. Boy, was I excited. And then they drove me back to my cottage. Well, I ran in. I was excited to share the good news with my mother, which I did. And I was surprised by her reaction. Couple things. First, she was very upset with me that I just made the decision to wander off, as she called it. I was not wandering, I was selling. But she was just shocked that I would take off like that. Second thing is she was not happy about strangers taking me in their car, taking me to the store, and then bringing me home. In fact, she was very upset about that. And then I learned a very unfortunate lesson. It really is, it shaped my whole politics, I would think. I learned that I hate socialism. What do I mean by that? Well, instead of being applauded for the good work that I had done, my mother sent me to my bedroom. In those days, it was okay to get a spanking. And she took my candy and she distributed the whole bag amongst my siblings who had no innovative ideas, who did not come up with a plan, who did not go out and sell anything. They didn't do anything in regards to earning that money, but they got the opportunity to share in the spoils. I was not happy, but that story, that experience has stuck with me my entire life and has been the basis of many stories, many lessons that I've shared with others over the years. And in fact, I shared it again today with you. Hey folks, I'd just like to give a quick shout out to the podcast sponsor, WebGeeks Marketing. WebGeeks is a company I started over 30 years ago, and we offer full service digital marketing to small and mid-sized organizations, particularly related to the building and real estate sectors. So plumbers, electricians, all the various trades, distributors in that field, even some of the white collar side of it, the architects, insurance agents, mortgage companies, that type of thing. We work with these companies to improve their visibility online, drive more business to their website and to their sales team, and help them to measure and analyze the data that helps steer the direction strategically and help them achieve their sales and marketing goals. So again, thank you to our sponsor, WebGeeks Marketing. That brings us to the evolution of digital marketing is not for dummies. This is a program that at WebGeeks we've developed to help our clients maximize their visibility in the market, increase their sales, and achieve their sales and marketing goals. Where this came from was about 5 or 6 years ago, I decided I wanted to write a book. And I met with a professional writer. She worked for the National Post and very good writer. And I approached her about helping me write this book. And she asked, what did I want to call it? And I said, digital marketing is not for dummies. Because I learned over the years that you just don't happen into success. It takes a lot of planning, a lot of work. And even with all of that, the odds really are against you being successful. So I had this concept that digital marketing is not for dummies. And the book would talk about how it would, learning the right things, thinking about things the right way could make all the difference in a marketer's experience. She asked a very good question, though. She said, okay, Lorne, what is it about what you do, what you're offering through WebGeeks that's different than anyone else? You don't want to just be another agency that's doing the same thing as everybody else. What is it that you do or consider special about your business? And I thought about that. And I thought about it for quite some time, actually. And it finally dawned on me, the thing that I was most interested in was the strategic aspects of marketing or setting a business or building an organization. What are the strategic analysis, evaluations, decision-making that goes into a successful program? So I decided that digital marketing is not for dummies, is about the strategy behind the things we do as marketers. And so that has evolved now into a marketing platform on which we can manage our applications and our marketing programs, tactics. It's a strategy. It's our way of how we approach marketing and helping a company develop visibility online. And it's a series of services and tactics or marketing executables that are done at the right time in the right way to achieve the results that the client is looking for. So in the next number of episodes of our podcast, I am going to start working our way through Digital Marketing is Not for Dummies and talk about marketing for whether you're a for-profit company or a not-for-profit charity or service organization, and discuss how you can structure your marketing activities, your business growth activities strategically, and how that can be executed and impact your bottom line. So, thank you for being with me in this inaugural episode of the Big Kahuna Podcast, and I look forward to catching up with you in the next episode. Until then, have a great week.